The past few days, I've been seeing a lot of footage coming out of Palestine in regards to the bombings from the Israeli military. And it's really bizarre, living in a key moment in history and watching it as it's happening. And it makes me think about how my grandparents probably felt when they watched the footage from Vietnam in color happening basically in real time. And it was that footage that played an integral part in the anti-Vietnam movement. And I see this footage and I can just imagine what it's going to be like 10, 15 years from now when they're going to be talking about this moment in history and showing that footage, and me saying oh wow, that's crazy, I saw that when it happened. And a year ago when I heard about the conflict, I've always known about the conflict since I was a kid between Palestine and Israel, but I never really understood it. And just growing up, because I never heard anything about it, it was so easy to ignore. And I'm really grateful for the last couple weeks with this new influx of information and the history of the conflict. And even a year ago, when I heard about the conditions that the Palestinians were living under, I felt something wasn't right, but I didn't really know how to express it. And now that I've heard more testimonies and actually did a little bit better research on the history, it is obvious that this is a colonial process. When you hear about what the Palestinians are going through, it sounds exactly like what the Native Americans went through. I just listened today to a video by Bad Empanada concerning the indigenousness of Israel citizens, and I suggest go checking it out. I'll look for the link and I'll put it in the comments. But I guess what sparked me to make this video was one of my mutuals had their opinions on Hamas and the bombings of the hospital, and I didn't really share those opinions, and I would say I'm definitely not pro-Zionist, at least to the point where you have to remove the indigenous population to achieve that goal. I don't agree with that. And knowing that the American government and the British government are all involved in this, and they were the ones that started it all, and the fact that Hamas was, as Yasser Arafat said, the creature of Israel. And then you find out that they were involved with the Israeli government, basically arming them to fight the opposition party. And of course, after Yasser Arafat died, then Hamas ends up taking control. Now, is Hamas the good guy? Well, if we were to judge a tree by the soil it grows in, it could be potentially a bad guy. Right now they're considered the good guy because they're fighting for Palestine, who is being oppressed by the right-wing Israeli government, which is a bad guy, and it's backed by the American government, which is a really big bad guy. And it was all done to start with by the European governments during World War II, which were all bad guys. So that was what really got me thinking about who is the real bad guy. Ultimately, all these governments that are just vying for power over people, they're all the bad guys. And the people who suffer are the citizens of both countries. Well, both sides. And that's what we have to remember, that the Israeli government is a bad guy. The military who represent the government, they're the bad guys. The American government that funds them, they're the bad guys. Hamas, they're a bad guy that's doing good things, relatively speaking. But when I heard that they were a Islamic fundamentalist group, that worries me, because, you know, fascism is fascism. And I really hope that things work out and that the Palestinian people can be free of all of this. But it's going to be a really big, bumpy road.